So today in the shed we have my 2016 Banshee Spitfire. This was a custom build and we've got about 200 kilometers into this now, so it's time for its bedding in service. So checking all the bolts, cable tensions, making sure the drivetrain and brakes are working as they should, and also trying to pick up any other problems that have come up. But all in, it's running pretty tight at the moment, as you'd expect for a new bike. Starting with the bolts, I'm going to work from one end of the bike to the other in an M shape, starting at the bottom hub, working up through the headset, down through the bike, checking all the bolts. I'll be doing this using my torque wrench to make sure that all the bolts are correctly torqued, because I don't want to damage any of the threads or the frame itself. Any bolts that are a little bit loose, I might bring them out, apply some thread lock, put them back in. Once we've worked through them, we're going to then move on to the drivetrain, make sure our cable tension, because once you bed in, the cable will stretch a little and your shifting will become a little less crisp. Once we've worked through the drivetrain, we'll then move on to the brakes. Look for rubbing on the brakes, make sure that we're not needing a bleed, no air in the system from new brakes themselves. But in the meantime, let's get started. We've got our T25 for the brake discs, got our torque wrench. So let's start at the front down here. As good a time as any. Got my brake here, check my brake torque tensions. Yep, if you hear the click, you're good. Never try to undo a bolt with your torque wrench, and never try to apply more force for your torque wrench once the bolt clicks, because you will damage your torque wrench. Here we have our hope stem. So we're going to start with the two bolts. All good. Now for the front bolts and the faceplate, we're going to work diagonally. Pick a corner, then move to the opposite bolt, move across, then move back up. This will apply tension evenly. You're also wanting to make sure, bring this in so you can work it clearly, that the spacing in between the stem and the faceplate is even top and bottom. If that is uneven, then there's uneven tension across the faceplate, and that can put pressure where you don't want it onto your bars. And in this case of carbon bars, it's something that we really don't want. Cockpit controls, these 3 Newton meters. One bolt not to forget, and it's really easy to, is if you're running a chain guide that is an ISCG mount, don't forget those bolts, because they can be a little bit easy to forget because they can sit behind the chain ring, but those guys can loosen right up as well. Up here in the saddle, got it listed as 120 inch-pounds. Inch-pounds is not on the torque wrench, so refer to our conversion table. Found a loose bolt down here by my derailleur, so bring this in so you can see it. So my derailleur mount bolt was a touch loose, so loose enough that the shifting's not really affected yet, but loose enough that that would cause damage if it was caught by anything. Plus it's going to loosen up even more, and it's going to result in really poor shifting, so we want to cinch that up and make sure that's nice and tight. So now I'm going to check my frame bolts, and then we can move on to checking our indexing is good and making sure our cable tension is what it needs to be. So the last bolts I'm going to have to work with, I'm going to have to take the back wheel off as well, because I need to check my rotor bolts. There's 6 of them, and again we're working in that opposite pattern to keep the tension even. Last thing I'm going to check tension is the lock ring nut that holds the cassette in place. So we're going to get a cassette tool and just make sure that that's nice and tight. The cassette is now absolutely solid and going absolutely nowhere. Time to mount this wheel back in the frame. So now we're ready to check the indexing for our gearing. So I'm going to start off by just moving through my gears to see how the shifting is. The adjustments I may need to make are checking my high and low screws and adjusting my cable tension at the barrel adjuster. The cable itself will stretch once it's bedded in, so I might need to tighten that up a little bit to keep the shifting nice and sharp and crisp. My high and low screws and the derailleur should be okay. They shouldn't have made any change from when the derailleur was initially installed 200 kilometers ago. So we'll just check that to make sure that they're still as they should be. So the shifting was actually pretty good there, but I did notice that I'm at the top of the block. If I try and shift up, I still have a small amount of movement in my derailleur. So to stop that, so I don't shift accidentally off the top of the block behind the cassette, following the spokes, I need to adjust my high screw there. So currently again, if I try and shift up, there's just that little bit of movement. So I just want to move the screw in to prevent any further movement there. Literally just a quarter turn, and then I don't have any more of that movement. Just move through my gears again. Make sure that hasn't stopped me being able to shift to the top like a cassette. Pretty happy with that. And let's check the same with being at the bottom of the cassette. So I'm just going to try and pull that out. There's a tiny bit of movement in play there. So just repeat the same. Nice. When I'm shifting up, the cable is pulling the derailleur. So I want to move up, I have to increase that tension. If I want to shift down and it's struggling to shift down, I need to decrease that tension. And I do all of that at the barrel adjuster at the shifter end at the cockpit. So the barrel adjuster simply screws in and out, move it in quarter turns, then see how your shifting goes. I don't have to do that today, so I'm not going to break something that isn't already broken. Just sounds so good. Last thing is work with my brakes. Now I know by lever feel that I don't need to do any bleeding. My back brake was feeling absolutely fine. My front could do with a little bit more power, so I suspect that I might have glazed the pads there slightly. So I'm going to just pull the pads out front, sand them down some wet and dry, put them back in, and hopefully that will bring back any lost power that I should be having with that. Got a wee dot of disc brake cleaner as well. I'm going to put that in the front rotor just to make sure that there's no contaminants there as well. Put a wee dot on my freshly sanded pads and rinse everything off in some nice clean water. Now we finish our basic bedding in service. Everything is now running nice and clean, no little niggles. A service like this should become part of the regular routine of looking after your bikes, as it preempts problems and helps you find things that maybe on the edge of braking becoming proper issues. It just keeps everything running nice and smooth, and that's what you want on the trail. You want to have complete confidence in what you're riding with. You don't want to have any issues, no niggles in the back of your head, no creaks, no groans, because all that does is you think about it, gets in the way of your riding, it slows you down, and you start riding sloppy, not riding as well as you can because you're worried about the equipment you're riding. Whereas if you just keep on top of things, do this periodically, then you know everything's running nice and clean, nice and true, and you're not going to have any issues, and that will give you confidence in what you're riding, and that will give you confidence on the trail. So all I've got to do now is put my front wheel back in and go ride my bike. Job done. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, remember to like and subscribe here. And next time we'll have more maintenance, more bikes, more fixing bikes here in the shed time.